The Scream of the Haunted Mask. So that's book 4. Chapter 11. The low whinnying of a horse. The flashlight fell out of my hand and clunked on the stable floor. I grabbed Sabrina's arm. You heard it too? Before she could answer, another hoarse whinny, louder this time, so close, so very close. From a stall near the back of the stable. Yes, I hear it too, Sabrina whispered. She huddled close to me. We heard another bump, like a horse bumping up against a stall wall, and then the rustle and scrape of hooves in straw. The ghost story, I whispered. It's true. I was shaking. My throat closed up. I struggled to breathe. It's true, Sabrina. It's all true. I squeezed her arm. To my surprise, Sabrina burst out laughing. She stepped away from me. Sabrina? I'm sorry, Carly Beth, she said, shaking her head. I can't keep up the joke anymore. It's too mean. I was still shaking. I hugged myself, wrapping my arms around me. Joke? Sabrina cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted, Okay, Chuck and Steve, you can come out now. Okay. I started to get it. I started to figure out what was going on here. Sabrina grabbed my shoulder. You don't have to worry about ghost horses. It's just another joke, Carly Beth, she said. It was Chuck's idea. I'm sorry. They made me bring you here. I thought it would be funny. My breathing slowly returned to normal. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was angry. What was their problem? Okay, dude, Sabrina shouted. Where are you? Joke's over. You can come out now. She swung the flashlight around, beaming it from stall to stall. Silence, except for the wind whistling through the cracks in the walls. Chuck? Steve? I called. Very funny. Ha ha. See, I'm laughing. You guys are a riot. Silence. No sign of them. We know you're in here, Sabrina said. I tugged Sabrina toward the back. Come on, those two jerks want to play hide and seek. Let's find them. We started at the rear stalls. Sabrina aimed the light and moved it around in each stall. A blackened saddle was half buried under a pile of straw in the first stall. The second stall had a dead field mouse, its body nearly eaten away by insects, its tiny skull poking out. Come on, come out, guys, Sabrina shouted. Joke's over. We moved quickly through the row of stalls till we were back where we started at the front of the stable. Sabrina frowned at me. Where are they hiding? I know they're here. I lowered the flashlight. I glanced down and gasped. Sabrina, look, the carrots are gone. Chapter 12. I hugged myself to stop from shaking. Sabrina, something very weird is going on here, I whispered. No, it isn't, she replied. Now she sounded angry. Chuck and Steve took the carrots. I know they did. I don't believe those two creeps. She glanced around. Where are they? Maybe they sneaked past us, I said. They grabbed the carrots and ran out of the stable while we were at the back. Maybe, Sabrina said. She pulled her cell phone from her jeans pocket. Let's see. I'll call Chuck. I held a flashlight for her. She punched Chuck's number on her phone. A few seconds later, she said, Hey, Chuck, it's Sabrina. Where are you? A pause. Then, you're home? What do you mean you're home? Steve is there too? But what about the joke you wanted to play? Remember, Carly Beth, the old stable? Standing next to Sabrina, I could hear Chuck's loud groan pour out of the phone. Sabrina turned to me. Do you believe it? She said. They're both at Chuck's house. It was their joke and they forgot all about it. She clicked her phone shut. I staggered back. My brain was spinning. If the boys weren't here, who made the horse sounds? Sabrina and I both heard them. The low whinnying, the thud of hoof and straw. Sabrina chewed her bottom lip. Her dark eyes were wide. I think maybe I'm afraid now, she murmured. Let's get out of here. We both took off running. Through the open stable door, across the field, the tall weeds and grass slapping at us as we ran. The harsh October wind forced us to lower our heads. Our shoes slipped and slid over patches of wet mud and grassy ground. Again I heard the low hoot-hoot of an owl somewhere close by. Louder than the owl, another horse whinny, this time shrill and pleading, as if calling after us. Ee. No, Sabrina and I both screamed as we tore through the field, running full speed, our arms flying out at our sides. We screamed all the way to the bus stop at the road. Our wet shoes thudded on the pavement. We fell on each other, leaned on each other, breathing hard, panting. The shrill horse cry still fresh in our ears. Come on, bus, I said, my eyes on the dark road. Come on, bus, hurry. Where is that bus? Sabrina groaned. The trees along the road creaked and shook in the wind. The clouds rolled away from the moon. Pale silver light floated down. I turned back. I could see the dark stable in the moonlight. I let out a cry when I saw the boy. The boy crouched on the flat stable roof. He was staring at us, not moving, just staring at us. I couldn't move. I stood there staring back at him. How did he get up there? Did he make those noises? Who is he? Chapter 13. Jesse, did you take some of Colin's Legos? I held Jesse by the shoulders and gazed into his eyes. He looked away. Maybe, but I needed them to finish my robot, he said. You wrecked my robot, Colin cried, and my robot was better than yours. Your robot looked like a rabbit, Jesse shouted. Did not. Your robot looked like a skunk. Sabrina took Colin by the hand and led him to the table where the plastic blocks were scattered. She sat down beside him and they started to build a new robot together. Jesse, are you going to apologize to Colin? I asked softly. He made a face at me. Then he yelled to Colin, I'm sorry your robot looked like a dumb bunny rabbit. Nice apology. After the kids had left, Mrs. Launch helped Sabrina, Laura, and me clean up. I have to ask you something, she said, shoving handfuls of Legos back into a box. Can you girls work on Halloween? We stopped and stared at her. You mean Halloween night? What's up? I asked. The parents asked if we could have a party here for the kids, she replied. You know, give them a nice, safe Halloween. Costumes, food, games, the whole deal. They're willing to pay extra, and it will be early. You'll still have plenty of time to go out afterward. I can do it, Laura said, brushing back her hair with both hands. No problem. Me too, Sabrina said. Get paid for Halloween? That's awesome. Count me in, I said. After the horror of last year, a safe Halloween night with little kids sounded excellent to me. I love Halloween parties, Laura said. Maybe we could have a jack-o'-lantern contest. And I know the kids can make their own masks. They'd like that, right? I like your enthusiasm, Mrs. Launch said. She grabbed a broom and started to sweep the floor. Carly Beth, maybe you know some good ghost stories you could tell the kids. Whoa, I shook my head. I keep thinking about the ghost of the stable boy. Too creepy. Maybe we could skip the ghost stories this year. We said goodnight to Mrs. Launch. Sabrina had to get home early because of some cousins were coming for dinner. Laura headed home too. I couldn't help myself. I walked out to the back door and started toward the apple orchard. I knew where I was going. To the abandoned stable. I couldn't stop myself. I had to see it again. The sun had already dropped behind the trees. It was a clear, cool evening. I crossed the field through the tall grass swaying in the soft breeze. I walked along the side of the stable until I came to the patch of freshly dug dirt. I gazed at it. What a puzzle. Someone was digging on this spot recently, but who and why? No way to answer those questions. I stepped around the square of dirt and hurried into the stable. The sharp smell of hay and mud greeted me. Gray light slanted in through the small stable windows and through a large hole in the front. I glanced around quickly. The stable was empty. I saw the tattered blanket over the stall wall and low piles of straw along one wall with thousands of little insects crawling over them. I turned to leave, but I froze when I heard a scraping sound. Hooves and straw? No, it sounded more like human footprints. I spun around and shouted, Is anyone here? Silence, and then another scraping sound. My eyes searched each stall. I knew I wasn't alone, but I couldn't see anyone. Oh, I uttered a cry as a boy appeared beside me. He had dark brown hair cut very short, and deep black eyes. They appeared even darker because of his pale skin. He wore a brown and black flannel shirt and torn jeans. Who are you? I cried, stepping away from him. What are you doing here? A strange lopsided smile spread over his face. I live here, he said. Chapter 14. I don't understand, I stammered. I couldn't stop staring into those deep, sad eyes. No one lives here. This stable. The boy shook his head. The lopsided smile lingered on his face. I mean, my family lives nearby, he said. He spoke slowly, with a slight drawl. I come here a lot, he said, because it's so peaceful. I had a sudden urge to reach out and grab him, grab his arm, see if he was solid, see if he was real. What are you doing here? He asked. I work at the farm, after school, I mean, with kids. I was stammering like an idiot. He could see I was kind of freaked. My name is Carly Beth. I'm Clark, he said. I think I scared you popping out like that. Sorry. It's okay, I said. Do you know the story of this stable? He asked. It's a pretty scary place, he laughed. Maybe that's why I like to come here. His eyes burned into mine. Think it's twisted to like scary things? His question sent a chill down my back. Maybe it was the way he asked it, staring at me like he could read my mind or something. I heard the story, I replied. It's horrible. Those poor horses. He frowned at me. Excuse me? You care more about the horses? What about the stable boy? It's all horrible, I choked out. You know, my friend Sabrina and I were here last Saturday, and we heard horses whinnying here in the stable. Clark laughed. He had a funny laugh, kind of dry. It sounded like he was choking. You must have a good imagination, he said. I come here all the time, and I never hear horses. Field mice maybe, but never horses. It wasn't field mice, I said. That I know for sure. He kicked a pile of straw. Hundreds of insects went swarming across the stable floor. Such a sad place, he said softly. It's weird to think about. I wondered if Clark knew anything about the mask. I was dying to know if the stable boy's mask was the same evil mask I had in my basement. They say it was a scary mask that started the stampede, I said. Clark's eyes flashed. His expression turned serious. Do you know what the mask looked like? I asked. He shrugged. Beats me. He's lying, I decided. And then the words just blurted out of my mouth. I don't know why, but I started to tell him the story of what happened to me last Halloween. I asked you about the mask because I had a bad time last Halloween with an evil mask, I started. Again, his eyes locked on mine. I definitely had his attention. Last year, I continued, when I put the mask on, it stuck to my skin. I couldn't pull it off, and it started to change me. I suddenly had evil thoughts, horrible evil thoughts. The mask, it was taking over my brain, and... Clark laughed. He brushed a hand back through his short brown hair. An evil mask? He said, you're joking, right? I shook my head. No, Clark, I'm totally serious. He laughed again. Give me a break, he said. A mask that turns you evil? I crossed my arms in front of me. You said you know the story of the stable boy, I said. Then you know that he wore an evil mask that frightened the horses, and now they say the boy haunts the stable. Clark gaped at me. Carly Beth, you believe in ghosts? He cried. No way. You believe in ghosts and evil masks? He laughed. Is your friend Sabrina as weird as you are? I stared back at him. I could tell he was lying. He was only pretending not to believe me. It was obvious. He was putting on a big show. Like he didn't believe in ghosts or haunted masks. I felt another chill. He was kind of cute, but there was something strange about him. Something he was hiding. Why was he hanging out here in this smelly, bug-infested stable? And why was he dressed like a stable boy in that old flannel shirt? I have to go, I said. It's late. I don't want to miss the next bus. He grinned. Hope the bus isn't haunted. His dark eyes flashed. I rolled my eyes. Very funny, I said. Well, nice meeting you, Clark. See you around, I guess. See you. He gave me a quick two-fingered salute. I spun away and jogged out of the stable. The air felt so nice and fresh as soon as I got out of the smelly stable. I trotted across the field on the road, and then, over the thuds of my sneakers on the hard ground, I heard shrill sounds. Horses whinnying behind me. Horse cries, so sad, calling me back to the frightening stable. Chapter 15. I ran to the road. The horse cries rang in my ears. Breathing hard, I grabbed the bus stop pole and held it tightly, struggling to catch my breath. An SUV rolled by with loud country music blaring out the window. The sun had dropped low behind the trees. Strange shadows rolled across the field like living creatures. The road was dark, no sign of the bus. It ran every half hour or so, but I wanted it to be there now. I wanted to get away from that stable with the strange boy inside. The boy with the deep, dark eyes who laughed at me when I said I heard horses, who laughed when I said the stable was haunted. What was the truth about Clark? I shuddered as the sky grew even darker. I didn't want to think about Clark or ghosts or masks. I wanted to get away from there. The bus is never coming, I muttered. I should have gone home with Sabrina, I told myself. I never should have wandered over to that stable. I grabbed my cell phone. I decided to see if Mom or Dad could pick me up. I started to punch in our number and stopped. My phone was dead. No power. With a loud sigh, I pushed the phone back into my jeans pocket. A bird cackled loudly in a tree across the road. Are you laughing at me? I called to it. I decided to start walking. I'd walk along the road toward home. When the bus came, I'd wave at it to stop. Or I could walk the whole way. It was only a mile or two. It will feel good to walk, I told myself. It will give me a chance to think, a chance to figure things out in my mind. I had a lot to think about. As I trudged along the gravel on the side of the road, my mind was spinning. Did I really hear ghost horses? Was it my haunted mask that caused the stampede that killed them all? I knew Sabrina was right. I had to get that mask out of my basement. But where could I take it? Where could I hide it where no one would ever find it? The walk took longer than I thought. I checked my watch. Nearly 7 o'clock. Dinner was at 6:30. Mom and Dad would be frantic by now. They were probably calling my dead cell phone and calling Mrs. Lange. When they found out I walked home, they would go ballistic. The air grew cooler. I zipped my jacket to the top. My backpack suddenly felt as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. The farm fields gave way to rows of small houses. I knew I was almost there. I wiped sweat off my forehead with the back of my hand and kept walking. "Look out!" a voice cried. 2 boys on bikes roared past me, one on each side. They laughed and slapped a high five, happy that they scared me. Most of the houses were brightly lit. Inside, I could see people sitting at dinner tables. In one front window, a huge white cat stared at me as I walked past. If only I could call Mom and Dad and let them know I was okay. I pulled my phone out again and shook it. No power. I reached Melrose Street and turned the corner onto Deckland. I was 10 or 15 minutes from home. A large gray dog jumped up in its driveway and began barking at me ferociously. My heart skipped a beat, then I saw the dog was on a chain. I turned another corner and found myself on the block of small stores. I saw a laundry and a shoe repair store, both closed for the night. I passed the post office and a small pizza takeout restaurant. I started to cross the street, then stopped in the middle. I stared at the store on the next corner, stared into the bright orange light in its window. Faces stared back at me, ugly, twisted faces. Masks. 3 rows of Halloween masks gazed out of the store window. I saw gorilla masks, several monster masks with bulging eyes and blood-dripping fangs, a furry werewolf mask, a creature with its skull poking out of the top of its head. Frozen in the middle of the street, I stared from mask to mask, then my eyes went to the glass door in the front. A chill shook my body. I recognized the store. I knew it so well. The store appeared in so many of my nightmares. The mask store. The store where I'd bought the haunted mask. Ooh. Chapter 16. How could it be here? How could it be back? The store had vanished, disappeared without a trace, leaving an empty lot behind. So how could I be staring at it now? A loud blast from a car horn shocked me out of my daze. I shielded my eyes from the headlights and hurried across the street. I stepped into the orange glow of the store window. The ugly masks gazed out at me. I ran to the front door and grabbed the handle. The store was real. It wasn't a dream. I pressed my face to the glass and peered inside. I could see the narrow aisle with long shelves of masks on both sides, just as I remembered it. And behind the counter, the same strange man, the man who'd sold me the haunted mask. He stood there, reading a book. He raised his face to the light, and I could see him clearly. He had the same slicked-down black hair parted in the middle, the same pencil-thin black mustache. He wore a flowing black cape over a black suit. I stood for a long while with my hand on the door handle, watching him, remembering his little black eyes, the way he seemed to see into my thoughts. I took a deep breath and gave the door a hard tug. It swung open so fast, I nearly banged into it. Stumbling, I stepped into the store. He didn't look up. He waited for me to step up to the counter. Then he raised his head slowly and squinted at me with those strange little eyes. "Do you remember me?" I asked in a high, shrill voice. He nodded. "Of course I remember you, Carly Beth." That made my pulse race. I didn't like him saying my name. I gripped the counter with both hands to stop myself from shaking. "You must take back the mask. You must," I shouted. An unpleasant smile spread under his thick, thin mustache. "Take it back? How?" he asked. He closed his book and set it down on the counter. It was an old, tattered book. I saw the title on the cover, New Faces. "It's in my basement," I said. "I'll bring it to you, tonight." His smile faded. "You can't return it," he said. Behind him, a shelf of human skulls grinned at me. "Why not?" I screamed. He brushed back his cape. "You think you defeated it the first time," he said softly, "but I know the truth." My mouth dropped open. "Huh? The truth?" He drew closer, so close I could smell his sour breath. "The mask doesn't accept defeat," he whispered. "That's crazy," I stammered. "It will be back, Carly Beth," he said. "It will come after you this Halloween, and there's nothing that I can do about it." "That's crazy," I cried. "I have it locked up. He brought his face up to mine. No one has ever defeated the mask. No one whose skin became the mask's skin, whose eyes became the mask's eyes, has lived to tell about it. The mask destroyed them. All of them. All of them except you. You are alive, for now. He took a step back and let out a sigh. Do you think you are the only victim of the mask? Someone else is out there, Carly Beth. Someone else owned the mask and will do anything to get it back. Anything. Someone you know. Huh? My mouth dropped open. You're confusing me, I said. Just tell me what I can do, please. I cannot tell you because I do not know, but I do know this, he said. The mask will not quit until it controls you, until it fills you once again with its evil. No, please, I begged, please. He shrugged. His cape rustled behind him. I tried to warn you, Carly Beth. I tried to stop you, but you wouldn't listen. You bought the mask and ran off with it, and now you must pay a most painful price. No, listen to me, I cried. I'll bring it back right now. You can lock it away in your store. He shook his head. Sorry. He slid quickly behind the counter. He took my arm. His fingers pinched my skin. He led me out the door. No, please, wait, help me, I cried. I was standing outside. I heard a lock click. The store went dark. I let out a sharp cry. No, you've got to help me, I screamed. I grabbed the door. It wouldn't budge. I started to pound it with both fists. I don't want the mask. Take it back, I screamed. Take it back, take it back, take it back. I would like to say I did read The Haunted Mask, the prequels to this, and what happened in it was basically Carly Beth used to be afraid of everything, and everybody knew that she was afraid of everything. They made fun of her for it, and they would scare her on purpose for it, and she didn't like it. So one Halloween, her mom had made her a duck costume that she otherwise would have liked. Like, that's the kind of stuff she wore for Halloween. And, but she wanted to wear something scary, really scary. She went to this, mask shop, the one that she just went into, except it used to be in a different location. And she was looking at the masks. She had like $30 with her, like her savings. And, she didn't quite see any that she liked. And when the store clerk basically wasn't looking, she snuck into the back. And there were some more masks there. And they were really scary. And she took one that looked like this one. Green and scary looking and super, like, it almost called out to her, like, so she wanted that mask, and the store clerk told her no, that those aren't for sale. Carly Beth didn't listen. The man went after her, tried to grab her, tried to stop her, but Carly Beth basically, like, threw the money at him and left with the mask and tried it on the first time in her room in front of her mirror and to try it out. And she was pleased with what she saw in the mirror, and she took it off. It was hard, but she took it off. Then she put it on again for Halloween instead of putting on the duck costume with like a different clothes, right? And she slowly started becoming different. She liked to scare little kids, and she was gonna do other evil stuff, but it wasn't really her. And what was left of her wanted to get the mask off, was deciding that the mask was the problem. She went back to the store to ask the man what was happening, and he said that those masks in the back, they weren't really masks. They were, I think he explained, they were faces. And they were faces, they were beautiful. And they turned ugly like that. Nobody wanted them, nobody loved them. But now she loved that one, loved that mask. And so it wasn't going to let her go. And it happened to be an evil mask that wanted to do evil things. And the store clerk asked her, how many times have you taken the mask off? She said, I've only taken it off once before. So he said, find a symbol of love and you'll be able to take the mask off. Well, Carly Beth's mom had already made, and it was introduced earlier, had made this little statue of Carly Beth's head in her art class because she loves Carly Beth. Carly Beth ended up realizing that, and she grabbed it. At one point, the mask was making her use. It wasn't the mask. Carly Beth, with her costume, wearing the mask, was using the Carly Beth statue on a stick to tell people, this is who I used to be and this is who I am now. She already had it, but she hadn't used it as a weapon on the mask until after the store clerk told her that. All the other masks started going after her too because they wanted love too. But Carly Beth was able to make them go away. She locked up the mask, and then here we are with this. Next Halloween, the mask's not taking no for an answer. So, I don't know who was interested in knowing about that other book, because like I said, I probably won't be reading it. I'll just be reading the 12 books in this series, then I'll see about what else. But there it is, a little background story for y'all. So, if anyone wants to know.